Um, Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the first week of the Sparkling Box, our perennial fan favorite. Everybody loves Sparkling Box. I can't believe it's almost the end of 2025 already. Where did this year go? That's crazy, but here we are. I put this together every month, every year, but it's something, kind of like the Thanksgiving box. It's all the wines that I'm kind of excited to drink over the holidays this year and leading up to New Year's Eve. I focused on kind of this month's to be on value, which is a kind of a different tack that I've taken in the past. So usually, like last year's sparkling box, for example, if you guys remember, we had that like 1.5 bottle of champagne, because it turns out champagne is too goddamn expensive, and that's the only thing I could really afford to put in there, and I had to like blend it out across with the other kind of alternative. Instead, this year, I mean, yes, we do have a full 750 of champagne here this year, but I try to find the best kind of like pound for pound, bang for your buck kind of wine in its own kind of category. It's most of you know, if you've been around, sparkling is never that cheap, just because it's just more labor intensive, especially things like champagne and cava. That is, it just takes much more time, right? Because there's the aging requirement. It just takes time for it to even just make, because it's got to go through 2 different fermentation. So all that involved is usually an expensive proposition. So this year, I really try to find you something that punches way above its price point. And I think I did okay. Some of these things just knocked me out of park in terms of how much value it provided. So, but just we're starting out with champagne. So the actual bottle of champagne, which is what we got. So what we're tasting is a champagne Chatelin Brut selection is what we're tasting today. Just a few announcements real quick. No new members this month, so no need to go through all the ground rules and name pronunciation and all of that. Just a few announcements. So tomorrow the Case Club will go live. So these are all the wines we tasted last month, which was the Thanksgiving box. So there's some cool other ones that I'm throwing in there. So if you want to pick up those, keep your eye out for it tomorrow. And if you want your wines by Thanksgiving, I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's why we do Thanksgiving box in October. So by the time you order Case Club and you get it, you can actually have it by Thanksgiving if you wanted to. So if you actually want to have those wines by Thanksgiving, just let me know when you make an order, just so I can figure out either shipping it to you or delivering it to you, figure out how to get it to you by Thanksgiving. So yeah, just let me know. Besides that, I don't really. Oh, there's one big thing. So I am going to the Philippines on the 10th. I'm leaving the States on the 10th, and I'll be back on the 26th, the morning of the last tasting of the month. I thought about bringing the wines with me to Philippines and doing a tasting out there, but I don't know. I'm going out to Palawan, which is like the further kind of a remote set of islands on the western part of Philippines, and going on like a 4-day long boat cruise. It's not really a cruise. It's just like a sailboat kind of a thing, staying on beaches or with uninhabited, islands, beaches. So I just don't know what the availability of internet's going to be like, and I don't want to have to try to figure all that out. So this month, the only in-person tasting or the live actual tasting we're going to have is today, and then the last one on the 26th. So the 2 tastings in the middle, one on the 12th and one on the 19th, are going to be recordings. So I will shoot those out to you, but they will not be a live Zoom tasting, just because I'll be on a boat somewhere in the Philippines, hopefully without any internet and completely disconnected from the world. So looking forward to that. Yeah, so don't be so sad. You only get to see, well, you'll see it on recording, but you only get to interact with his face twice this month. Besides that, I don't really have any other announcements. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'll make an announcement on this on the recording that goes out next week as well. But so all that wrapping up of the enrollment, the invoices are gonna on the 15th, which is the next Saturday. And that's all gonna happen while I'm in the Philippines. So more than any other month, if you could really just let me know if you're not planning on joining us next month, that'd be great. And if you are planning on joining us, just go ahead and take care of the invoice. I really don't have to try to track you down while I'm in the Philippines. I already know that I'm gonna have to, because some of you are just incapable of either letting me know or paying the invoice on time. I do this every month. But if you could really do that, that would really help me out. But yeah, that on the 15th. And just so you know, next month, the last month of 2025, we're gonna go to South Italy, Southern Italy. We're gonna go to a little province called Puglia. So there's gonna be some Primitivo, there's gonna be some big red wines in there. So we're gonna go to South Italy to wrap up the year. But yeah, if you could just wrap up the invoice as soon as it comes out this month, that would really help me out. Okay. Any questions about any of that I just went over in terms of logistics and what's happening next month and all of that? Cool. In case you're just joining us now, we are tasting this guy. We're starting off the month with this one. This is not vintage. Champagne Chatelin Brut Selection is what we're tasting today. It's the only champagne that we have in the box. Real champagne. All right, so here we go. So here's a map of France. Should look pretty familiar. You guys probably have seen this many, many times. And where we are this week is right here, Champagne. Just east of Paris. Very close. If you ever go to Paris and if you want to take a trip out to Champagne, this is actually a very, very close trip. Highly recommend that you check it out. But it's right by Paris. It's just east north of Paris. But as you can see, it is the most northern. It's the northernmost wine producing region, not only in France but pretty much all of in the world. It is pretty much as far as a borderline of as far as north as you can go for in terms of being able to grow grapes. So as you can imagine, the weather here, the climate here is very continental, meaning it is quite warm in the summer, but particularly the winter is bitterly cold, and that is what makes this place quite challenging place for growing grapes. But nonetheless, it is a great thing for champagne or sparkling wine because it produces so much acid just because it's so cold. But then we'll talk about what kind of actually opportunities that bring and what kind of adjustment this area made because of that climate of the continental climate that it has. Like I mentioned, most northern wine growing region of France, really cold, hard to ripen here, grapes. But so as you can imagine, the vintage variation here is quite great. So every year to year, because the marginal weather pattern and climate that comes in here, there was a huge vintage variation. And in order to kind of combat that, and it was really hard to sell champagne at the beginning just because one year it'd be great, one year it'd be terrible, for next few vintages it'd be great, for next few vintages it'd be terrible. So a lot of customers and people who are drinking champagne just could not wrap their minds around it, could not really get behind the product because there's no consistency. So what they did here is that they created what they call assemblage, which is just a fancy French word for blending across vintages. So like I said at the beginning, this is a non-vintage, meaning there are multiple vintages of wine that are blended here, which is a pretty rare thing in the wine world. Most wines are vintage wines, so you're talking about, right? I mean, this is kind of the art of wine that we talk about. The art of wine is just like a snapshot in time and a place. It's like a photo of a place inside of a bottle. It's kind of how we describe wine. But champagne is a little bit different just because, again, it's so cold here, it's so hard to ripen grapes, and there's so much vintage variation. Just to create some sort of consistency, they've actually instituted this practice of blending across vintages. So legally, every year, every vintage, you have to hold back some of the wine and then keep it as a reserve. and then you have to and then each year the most base still majority is that year. So I don't know what the base wine for this thing is. I'm assuming it's probably like 2022, 2021, somewhere around there. So the majority is that vintage, but then you fill out the rest with that reserve wines that you have kind of legally required to keep over the years. And the person who was created with that practice or who brought that practice into Champagne is none other than Madame Clicquot. You've all probably heard of Veuve Clicquot, the yellow label champagne that you see everywhere. I call them the Stella of Champagne. It's, it's not going to blow your mind, but it never disappoints. Obviously, Veuve Clicquot makes their top of the line stuff. Their Tête de Cuvée is fantastic stuff, but their entry level, the yellow Veuve Clicquot you see everywhere. It's one of the things. It never disappoints, but it's not something that's going to blow your socks off. Kind of like the way I feel about Stella. All right, so within the champagne, if you look a little bit closer, this is what it looks like. So this is kind of how it breaks up. So yeah, you see the frame over here. So, and then same thing right there, which is the biggest city in Champagne. The soil here is pretty much what defines Champagne, what makes it unique, not only in terms of climate, making it continental and very cold, but soil here is very, very heavy in chalk. In fact, you'll see this. I have some pictures of the actual soil from this vineyard, where this wine comes from. You can see this kind of chalky rocks in there. It gets so chalky in there, particularly in a place like a Côte de Blanc. From afar, like if you were to take a satellite picture of this region, you will actually, the soil looks white. That's how chalky it is, how much limestone there is in the soil. But that's what gives it this kind of like textural minerality. It's almost like if you ever had like if you ever grew up with a blackboards or with like the old school erasers that you have to like go clean out in the windows, and like if you have to do that job chore, some of it will land on your mouth and it kind of gives you like textural, like a chalky minerality or a textural component. That's essentially what makes Champagne unique, and that's what people seek. There are a lot of method champenois or traditional method sparkling wines in the world, but what makes Champagne unique and what makes people chase after Champagne is really that chalky minerality is what really makes it delicious. Most people think of Champagne as just kind of like a monolith, and everything, all the champagnes are the same, but as you can see, there are different regions. Each region kind of specializes in different varieties. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and I know a lot of this is a review for a lot of you who've been around for a while. So those three grapes are the main Champagne grape: Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. There are some other grape varieties that are allowed in there, like Arbonne, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris. There's some other things that are included in there, but those are all minority kind of blending varieties. But really, anytime you get a bottle of Champagne, the majority is going to be either one of those three grapes or oftentimes a blend of those three grapes: Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. And each region kind of specializes in different variety. So starting from up here, by the way, my pronunciation is terrible, the Montagne des Reims, Mountain of the Rain. Probably the most quote unquote prestigious, mostly because that's where the kind of Champagne industry started and it was established. And this is also where the biggest kind of champagne houses are situated. So any names that you've heard of, the Moët Chandon, the Pere, the Krug, Veuve Clicquot, all these names that you know of in the Champagne world, they're pretty much all based in Reims. So that's what makes it kind of the most prestigious. But really, when you look at Champagne more closely, it's really about the personal preference. It's not necessarily one region is better than other, and I'll go into that in a second. Stylistically speaking, the Montagne des Reims is the most opulent, kind of full, big style of Champagne. Most classic as well. There's a bit of a dosage, and the Brut nature or zero dosage, where there's no dosage, the sugar added to balance out the acidity in the wine. That is kind of all the craze and the fad or the trend in the Champagne world. But Montagne des Reims is very much classic in a way. They like to put some dosage on the wine They like to kind of build like that opulence body that sugar gives the balance. And also the varietal selection here is what you're going to find is mostly Pinot Noir. Which is interesting because it's a red grape, yet it's in the most northern part of Champagne. It's because all the vineyards here are actually south facing. So it gets the most amount of sunlight. It is the kind of the warmest microclimate of all the other Champagne regions. So even though it's the most northerly part of Champagne, it has the red grapes grown up there, which usually does better in a warmer climate. But it makes sense knowing that these are all south facing varieties. So it makes sense, already kind of rich, big style, and then they use Pinot Noir, which is gives a much bigger, richer wine than Chardonnay alone. So stylistically, just know that Montagne de Reims is the most opulent, the full, big style of wine. The triangles that you see here they denote Grand Cru sites. They're spread all across Champagne. They are out of there are 17 Grand Cru sites. These are all different, basically vineyards. 17 different Grand Cru vineyards in Champagne. Out of 17, 10 of them are in Montagne de Reims. That's another reason why it's kind of it's prestigious. Goes to show why people kind of see Montagne de Reims as the king, just kind of like the epicenter of the Champagne world. Moving on to Vallée de la Marne, the Marne Valley. To the southwest of the Rhine. Vineyards here are planted on either side of the Marne River, which is what flows through the region, hence the name Vallée de la Marne. There's only one Grand Cru site, which is Ailly, which is right here, right in the eastern part of it. And the winery, today's winery is actually situated just outside of Ailly. There's a little town next to Ailly called Ailly-Champagne. French like to do this thing. They wear a hyphenate, different name on top of the main kind of well-known village or town, just kind of like right off the fame of that town. So Ailly, obviously being very well known, the region here is called Ailly-Champagne. Anyway, the main variety here is a Pinot Meunier, which is kind of gets shit on by many purists of Champagne. They think it's got this kind of a too fruity. It's almost got this. People, you may hear this if you ever come across some real Champagne nerds. It's like, oh, like a varietal Pinot Meunier smells like a little bit of puke. It's got a little bit of like this acid kind of a thing going on. But yeah, so. But 100% varietal Pinot Meunier is going through kind of a renaissance in Champagne. A lot of cool kids, young producers in Champagne are playing around with the Pinot Meunier, trying to come up with a different kind of style. But yeah, this is what this region is really known for. Now moving down, Côte de Blanc, which is the hills of the whites, is basically what that literally translates to, or the white hills. As the name suggests, there's so much chalk here, like I was saying, that the soil here actually looks white. This is actually my personal favorite sub-region of Champagne. This is a home of Chardonnay. So anytime you see Blanc de Blanc, which is white of the whites, there's a Blanc de Blanc and Blanc de Noir. Blanc de Noir is champagnes that are made from black grapes, so Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. And then anytime you see Blanc de Blanc, that means it's 100% Chardonnay. It's made from white grapes. And I'm a big fan of Blanc de Blanc. I'm a big fan of Chardonnay-based Champagne. And then this region is exactly what they're known for, that. So this is a Champagne region right here. Chardonnay region. All east-facing vineyards here compared to the south-facing vineyards up in the Rhine. So it still gets plenty of sunlight being east-facing. But yeah, a lot more that mineral-driven, a lot of that chalk comes through, less fruit, a lot more really ripping acid, kind of laser focused kind of a style of wine, which is the kind of Champagne that I really enjoy. So, which is right here. And then moving down, Côte de Sézanne, which is also on the kind of southern tip of the main contiguous regions of Champagne. Also Chardonnay territory, but unlike Côte de Blanc. And as you can see, there's some Grand Cru sites and there's some Premier Cru sites. These are blank squares are primary cru sites, and then these black filled triangles are grand cru sites. So you see some of the grand cru and primary cru sites through running through Côte de Blanc, but Côte de Saison, there is none. But it is also a Chardonnay territory. But unlike Côte de Blanc, where there are these primary cru sites, grand cru sites, a lot of smaller producers, grower champagne producers, here they basically grow fruit to sell to other houses in either Reims or Côte de Blanc in the different parts. So this is really like the workhorse Chardonnay part of Champagne, but that also means is a good place to find, good value. So if you like Côte de Blanc style Chardonnay, Blanc de Blanc Champagne, but just like everywhere else, it gets too expensive, and it's it's not something that you can drink every day. Then this is a great place to find a good value alternative here. Côte de Saison. Finally, moving a little further down, which is Côte de Bar. So which is all the way down here, and then as you can see on the map, it actually butts up right against Burgundy. So this is actually Chatelin. So Côte de Bar, also known as Aube, named after this Aube River that runs through here. Not to be slept on. As you can see, butts up against Burgundy. It's closer to Chablis than it is to the rest of Champagne. The soil type here changes a bit. It still has a chalky limestone that I talked to you about in Champagne, but because it's near Chablis, a lot of the Kimmeridgian clay, which is what Chablis is known for, which is a high content of clay that has a lot of the ancient marine shells running through. That's what Chablis is known for. That's what people believe gives Chablis that really like flinty seashell kind of a minerality. All that it starts to creep up into Côte de Bar as well. So in terms of a soil type, this is much more closer to Burgundy, Chablis than it is to Champagne, which is pretty unique to Champagne. And because of that, they actually try to kick Côte de Bar or Aube out of a Champagne appellation. Back in the days, these elitist people appear in the Reims and Côte de Blanc. They said, who is this? They're not even part of Champagne. Like, do you even go here? Like, your soil type is not the same as us. So they try to actually kick them out of Champagne. And then there was a fucking riot. Historically, the farmers here have been growing Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. It's more south, right? Warmer. So, I mean, again, it's still very cold. It's still Chablis, right? Like Burgundy, very continental climate, a marginal climate of other place. But they have been historically growing all this Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier and providing these grapes to the big houses in Montagne de Reims. But when they try to kick them out, saying that we don't need you, you're not part of Champagne, they threw a fit. There was a huge vandalism. There was a whole protest. They like burned down fields. They're like, whole shit that happened here. So all in all, in the end, they were able to stay in Champagne. So technically, they're still part of Champagne, even though they're much closer to Burgundy. I mean, this is the most French shit that you ever hear. But it still gets kind of shit on by the rest of Champagne. It's the youngest appellation within Champagne, not a single Grand Cru or Premier Cru sites here, as you can see. But it is a great place to look for value Champagne. Definitely also the most exciting in terms of, or experimental. Just kind of a hotbed of young, experimental, avant-garde kind of Champagne makers landing here. Because the land is cheaper. I mean, I say that with quotation mark, cheaper. I mean, it is still Champagne. It is still Burgundy. It's not cheap, but it is cheaper than the rest of a contiguous Champagne up there. And then with this history of being that, rioting, rebellious, black sheep of Champagne, it's really a kind of a cutting edge place. There's a lot more new styles of champagnes. So I once had a bottle of champagne that's only made with those minority blending varieties that I was telling you about, Arbonne, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, and that came from Côte de Bar. So things like that is happening here, where a lot of these young producers coming in and saying, "Fuck you, we're not going to do it the way that rest of you Champagne does. We're going to kind of do our own thing." But I mean, in general, Champagne, if you've ever been there, you know this. Particularly the Montagne de Reims, it is a very kind of regal, rigid, tradition-driven place. There's not a whole lot of room for experimentation and self-expression and a lot of that. I mean, of course, every champagne house will say they have their own style. They're trying to really express the land, and which I give them credit for. But really, you got to do it the way it's been done here for hundreds and hundreds of years. And nobody really deviates from it. But only when you come down to the Côte d'Ivoire, you really see people that are willing to do something that is even let go of the champagne appellation and make something completely different. So if you ever go to like a hipster ass wine bar, a natural wine bar with like, too cool for school, like Sam's running wine programs in Brooklyn or different parts of the country, you'll probably find a lot of champagne from Côte d'Ivoire and Woong on their list, just because, they're kind of a darling child of champagne. I'm trying to do something different. But, all right, so that's kind of the overview of champagne. I know that's a review for a lot of you. I've gone through this in the past, but I feel like we don't have champagne enough or often enough that it's probably hasn't stuck many times. So I figured it was worth going over again. Now, there seems to be this kind of a block on a lot of people. A lot of people, even for a lot of wine people, just because champagne in America is not something that we drink all the time. It's very celebratory thing. You only drink it on certain occasions, which I think is silly. I think we should be drinking champagne all the time. Or just sparkling wine should be just more of a normal thing. But even for the wine pros, champagne kind of tends to trip them up in terms of like they can't really figure out how to shop for champagne or how to tell the difference between one bottle to the next in the shop. So I figure I'll give you a quick kind of like 80-20, the 20% of champagne, that'll give you 80% of results in terms of being able to shop for champagne. So in my opinion, if you can kind of wrap your mind around these kind of like 5 things, I think you will be 90% on your way to figuring out how to pick up or much better chance of picking out a bottle that you will enjoy. So one is a grape variety. I kind of talked about it for a second. So it's Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, right? And then there's Blanc de Blanc, which is 100% Chardonnay. So anytime you see the word Blanc de Blanc on the label, it's 100% Chardonnay. Blanc de Noir means it is made from either Pinot Noir or Pinot Meunier, right? It's a white of the black, white of the white, white of the black, right? And then once in a while, you're going to come across rosé champagne, right? You won't see it all that often because here in Champagne, it's only made in best vintages. It's oftentimes more expensive than regular white champagne, again, because it's made only in the best vintages. And the interesting thing here is that, this is unthinkable in most other different parts of the world, but essentially what they take is the red wine and the white wine, the base wine, they actually blend it. It's none of this, you heard about like co-fermenting, taking the red varieties and the white varieties and co-fermenting it in a one tank thing together and things like that. But it's not that. You actually make the wine separately and you take the white wine and the red wine and you actually blend it across to make this a rosé champagne, which is, if you made rosé that way anywhere in the world, people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like that's not how you make rosé. But here in Champagne, the best kind of a champagne that comes out is a rosé champagne that's made by blending it. If you don't see the designation of the Blanc de Blanc, Blanc de Noir, or rosé or any of that, which is our case here, there's no designation. There's no Blanc de Blanc, there's no Blanc de Noir here. The chances are it's a blend of those 3 varieties. So Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. They're all across. Or at least Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay, or Pinot Meunier and Chardonnay. So both the red and white blended together. So that kind of gives you a sense of what it is. So the reason why that matters, a Blanc de Blanc, obviously if it's made from Chardonnay alone, the wines are going to be much kind of like focused. It's not as going to be rich and powerful. And then with the Blanc de Noir comes a little more fruit, a little more body, a little more power. So it's just stylistically, it's a little bit different. Now, next is a sweetness level. Which it says right here on the bottom of the map. So you'll see this kind of designation of the sugar level. So when you make champagne, right, you go through the first fermentation in a tank or some sort of a vessel, and then the second fermentation happens inside the bottle, right? You do the whole remoulage where you tilt it on the side, you leave it on the lees, right? And then you disgorge it to get the lees out. And after that, you oftentimes add a little bit of sugar to the wine to kind of balance out the acidity, because this is a very acidic. I mean, champagne in general is a very, very acidic wine. And you add some sugar to balance that sugar or acid, or sometimes just to even stylistically make it a little bit sweeter. So these are the different designations going from Brut Nature to doux. So Brut Nature is 0 to 3 grams per liter, Extra Brut 0 to 6 grams, Brut 0 to 12 grams. It goes all the way to doux, just means sweet in French. It's actually 50 plus grams per liter. So champagne is not this completely dry thing. Depending on the designation of how much dosage, this is what the adding of the sugar is called dosage. Depending on the dosage, the wine can be quite sweet, actually. I mean, 50 grams per liter, I mean, we're going into like a dessert territory, right? But yeah, so, but this is not only just to kind of shave off some of the acid, but it also builds out the body. As you add more sugar to the wine, it adds more viscosity, it adds more body. So this is another thing you should pay attention to when you're drinking champagne. See what level of sweetness level, dosage level you're drinking, and see what appeals to you. Do you enjoy Brut Nature? Like I said earlier, Brut Nature is kind of like the latest trend. Everybody's kind of trying to make Brut Nature wine, but because everybody's always like, I want dry wine, I want dry wines, I want dry wines. But I've had this experience many times where I pour people a glass of Brut Nature and they can't drink it because it is like, it will take your fucking enamel off level of acid on champagne. And without any kind of sugar on there, it is just so aggressive that it is sometimes too much. But, sometimes it can be really right. So Brut Nature, Extra Brut, Brut. The one that we're drinking today is a Brut. So yeah. This is somewhere between 0 and 12. I know for a fact that this is 8 grams per liter dosage level. So we're falling kind of right in the middle of the Brut scale. So help you kind of categorize or calibrate your senses. This is about what 8 grams per liter dosage feels like in champagne. See if this is what you like. Is it too sweet for you? Is it not sweet enough? You like more acid? I mean, more sugar. So yeah, something to pay attention to. Now, the next thing is aging. So NV, which is non-vintage, which is what we have today. The minimum aging requirement on this thing is 15 months. So the wine has to sit on the lees, right, with the champagne. I'm not going to go through a method champagne noir or traditional method again, because I think most of you guys already get that. But you all know that what makes champagne is the amount of time you spend on lees, right? Gives you that kind of autolytic, meaning that kind of bread doughy, cheese rind, all that like savory notes that come with sitting the wine on the lees. That's what makes champagne. So the NV, non-vintage, like the one that we have today, the minimum legal requirement, aging requirement is 15 months on the lees. Now, if there's a vintage is declared, if there's actual vintage on the label, the minimum is 36 months. So it's more than double. Oftentimes, producers will age for far longer than bare minimum. In fact, this particular wine that we have, even though minimum age is 15 months, I know that this has spent 36 months on the lees. So this has spent just as much as the vintage wines, but obviously, I mean, the vintage champagnes, some of them are on there for like 10 years and plus. So it really, most producers will go far beyond the legal minimum requirement, but just know that the aging requirement matters. So whether it's a non-vintage or vintage. Often, of course, because of that, not vintage is almost always more expensive than non-vintage, because you just have to spend more time sitting on the lees. You can't sell it. It's got to sit in your cellar for at least 36 months before you can sell it. Now, the vineyard quality, like I mentioned, there's 17 Grand Cru sites, 42 Premier Cru sites in Champagne. It does not guarantee quality, but it's kind of a better bet, right? It comes with a different price tag, obviously. Every time you see a Grand Cru or Premier Cru name written on the site. This does, however, have some Premier Cru wines in there, and we'll talk more about that once we get to talking about the producer. There's some Premier Cru fruit in this wine, but it's blended across different sites. That's why this is not a doesn't have it doesn't bear the name of Premier Cru or the Crown Cru on the label. And then finally, the kind of regional difference, I went over that, right? Like what it looks like, what it feels like. Montagne de Reims, Pinot Noir, Opulent, Val del Marne, Pinot Meunier, Côte de Blanc, Chardonnay. So kind of knowing what region it comes from also makes a difference in terms of a style. So those kind of 5 things, right? So we're talking about grape variety, the Blanc de Blanc, Blanc de Noir, all of that. Sweetness level, huge, the dosage level. Aging requirement, so NV. Most champagne you're going to come across is going to be non-vintage. Vintage is only declared a very, very few exceptional years. Vineyard quality, so anytime you see Grand Cru side or Premier Cru side, it's probably a good bet that you're going to see more quality control on there. And then finally, the regional difference. So knowing that this is from the Montagne de Reims, Marne Valley, or Côte de Blanc, or Côte de Sézanne, or Côte d'Ivoire, that kind of stuff. So as soon as you kind of start paying attention to those 5 things when you start tasting champagnes and buying champagnes, it'll probably help you. It'll get you, like I said, 90% there in terms of being, even if you don't know the producer, even if you've never had that wine, you can probably kind of start guessing what that wine is going to be like. So like, for example, if you ever went to a store and, I don't know, picked up a bottle of champagne and you don't know who this champagne producer is, but let's say it said it is a non-vintage champagne from Côte de Blanc. It is a Blanc de Blanc and 0 dosage. So now looking at that, you'll be able to go, okay, so it's from Côte de Blanc, so most likely it's Chardonnay, right? White. It also says on the bottle is Blanc de Blanc, so it is made from Chardonnay, I know that. 0 dosage, meaning there's no sugar added here whatsoever, which means it's going to be super high in acid. It's going to be ripping. And then non-vintage. So it's just blended across. It's the kind of the entry level kind of stuff, but it's at least spent 15 months, most likely longer than that. On that note, in terms of aging, oftentimes the bottles will have disgorgement date on there. I could not find the disgorgement date on this bottle to save my life. I don't know if you guys see it anywhere on the label, but I couldn't find a disgorgement date. So I just know that this has spent at least 36 months, but I don't know exactly how much more is spent. Probably not that much more. But if you see a disgorgement date on the label, let me know. I don't see it anymore. But oftentimes with the aging, the bottle will tell you when it was disgorged, so you can tell how long it sit on the lees. All right, so hopefully you find that helpful. Hopefully that can help you buy champagne in the future. All right, hold on, let me take a sip. I've been talking. Okay, let's talk about who makes this wine. I know there's a lot of information that but I can talk about champagne all day. All right, so the name of the champagne is Champagne Chatelin, but it is not made. Champagne Chatelin is just one line. It's one brand. It's an entry-level line made by Champagne Bauchet, Bauchet. Put that in the chat box. They're a well-known name in the champagne world. They're, like I mentioned, they're situated just to the right of IE. So as you can imagine, just kind of like you have access to the range, you have access to Val del Marne, you have access to Côte de Blanc. So it's kind of like a center, smack dab in the center. Pretty strategic location in terms of champagne. But anyways, so they grow their grower champagne. So what does that mean? Also, I've said that term before. Grower champagne means the trade structure-wise in Champagne, most champagnes are made by big champagne houses. So all the names I mentioned, right? Krug, Veuve Clicquot, Pere, right? Taittinger. All these people, they buy up all the grapes from all these farmers around Champagne, and then they make it. So most people grow grapes and they sell it. However, there are quite small producers that grow their own grapes and then make their own champagne. And those are called grower champagne. And because they can't compete with these big houses that actually pretty much set the price for grape wine purchase in the region, grower champagnes tend to be a little more expensive, but it's also much more akin to this idea of terroir, right? Like this a lot more shows the individual character of not only the vineyard or the site where the family grows their grapes, but also the family style, like what kind of a style they want. But so Champagne Chatelin is a brand line, entry-level line made by Champagne Bauchet. So Bauchet is a well-renowned, well-respected people that are based just outside of I, and they have all these fruit that they grow. They farm about 32 hectares, 34 hectares, and they have all this fruit that don't quite necessarily quite make it into their Champagne Bauchet line because it's just either too young, the vines are too young, or it's just on the right side of the cusp, or maybe just that vintage, the quality wasn't quite up there to make it into their family bottling. So instead of selling those off to other houses, bigger houses and different people, they essentially created this Champagne Chatelin line to make it into their own champagne and be able to sell it. So that's what this is. So this is an entry-level line made by respected champagne producer named Champagne Bauchet. Domaine Bauchet is a family-run champagne house established in 1920, and currently the fourth generation is running the property. And it all started with this lady, Juliette. She's a great grandmother of the current generation, Robin, who raised her only son, Felician, which is this gentleman right here. This is the most ridiculous picture, but it's the only picture that I could find. Felician is a single mother. She fought to build a future for her son and was able to buy a small plot of land where the current family winery sits. Then the family wine history really starts in 1920 when Felician planted 1 hectare of vineyard on his mother's land and he was working as like a farmer, laborer, lumberjack just to make ends meet. But he decided he's like, I'm in Champagne, I should plant grapes and start making my own wine. So he planted 1 hectare of vines in 1920 on his mother's land that his mother had purchased. And then he had 3 children, Raphael, Gerard, and Roland. I don't know where Raphael is, but this is the only picture that I could find of Gerard and Roland. Felician had 3 children who joined his father in the 1960s, and together they essentially developed the estate that we know of it now, which is a Domaine Bauchet. They worked the land themselves, they bought more land, invested right back into the family property, and then over time they became a recognized family-owned estate in Champagne. And then now they farm 34 hectares across 7 different crus, growing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So it's a story of us starting in 1920 with 1 hectare, and now in 4th generation farming 34 hectares across 7 different crus. Today, Robin Bauchet, which is this gentleman right here, grandson of Roland, which is this guy right here. And then Florence, daughter of Gerard, which is a gentleman on the left in the last picture. These 2 manage the family estate. Robin manages the vineyards, and Florence manages communication and sales and kind of like the administrative side of the Bauchet. And these 2 are the current generation that essentially run the winery that we know of it now. They do have their own enologist, which is this guy, Bruno Charlemagne. He's an enologist and a winemaker. And then he's the one who kind of is in charge of actually making the wine. But obviously, Bruno is still very much involved in terms of managing vineyards and growing grapes and all of that. So that's essentially the team. This is a team that made the wine that you're drinking today. But again, they're made from Champagne Bauchet, you see right here. And this is just a different line that they make. This is what the winery kind of looks like from the outside. You see in the back, see how white that hill is? Like this is what I'm talking about, like the limestone, like that chalk minerality. This is what the winery inside looks like. This is the base stainless steel tank that the first fermentation goes into. This is probably most likely where this wine was first made, first fermentation. This is a family cellar underneath the property. This is that limestone that I was telling you about. So limestone, the chalky limestone, porous limestone is essentially runs through Champagne. And then this is kind of the bedrock where all these grapevines are grown on top of. So you can imagine why it is so minerally driven. Here's a shot of some vineyards. They are fully sustainable, organic, certified organic, but sustainably farming property. They do not use any chemicals on the field. And then they do all their trimming and pruning and all that by using livestock. This is another picture from the vineyard onto their village that they're located in. And I don't know who this lady is, but I just wanted to I got this picture because look at these rocks. So this is basically that chalky limestone rocks that are kind of thrown all around. So these are the kind of stuff that you see all over Champagne. These kind of like white, really chalky, high-end chalky limestone content. All right, so that's what we got. Finally, what is this wine? So, like I mentioned, this doesn't have any designation of Blanc de Blanc or Blanc de Noir, so most likely it's a blend, and that is exactly what this is. So this is a blend of organic 70% Pinot Noir, 30% Chardonnay, so more Pinot Noir than the Chardonnay from Côte d'Ivoire, Côte de Blanc, and Val de Mar. So it's a blend of all those three regions all around where the family holds their properties. Like I mentioned, this is all the kind of grapes and fruit that don't quite make it into their family bottling for a variety of reasons. And then they're just making the entry-level wine of it. Traditional method champenois. Like I said, I'm not going to go into that. If you do want me to go into it, let me know and I'll go into it, but I don't think I need to. So in the interest of time, I won't go to that. All hand harvested, direct pressed, and it goes into the primary fermentation in that stainless steel tank that I showed you in the picture. Does go through a full mallow and then aged in cellar for minimum 35 months before disgorgement. Does not have disgorgement date, so I don't know how long this has actually sat on the lees, but the tech that I saw does say it has sat in the cellar for a minimum 35 months. Well, it's been in the cellar for 35 months, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it was on the lees for 35 months. So it could have been disgorged, then sat in the bottle for however long they set it on, but at least they held on to it for 35 months before disgorgement. And again, I could not find any disgorgement date. Did you guys see disgorgement date on this bottle label anywhere? I didn't see it. Okay, cool. Anyways, that's what we got. Oh, what are the lighter colors on the map and the light green area? Oh, you're talking about this? Yeah, I'm not sure.
That was me. Yeah, you have like each major region is a dark color, and then
Yeah, I see that.
light areas, but they aren't kind of labeled.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure. I can kind of see that the darker areas are where all the Grand Cru and Premier Cru sites are. So maybe perhaps that's like the more central, more prestigious region. Yeah, I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Brut apparently means raw and doux means soft. All right. Cool. Let's taste the wine. Who wants to take the appearance? That was a long one. I've been talking for a while. It's 9:25 already.
I'll do it.
Excellent.
Okay. Can you give me the screen?
Yeah. Is it up?
No.
You see it?
There it is. Got to make it bigger. Can't read it. There we go. All right, this wine is clear.
This one is clear.
It's very, very clear. Intensity, I would say, is a pale, right?
Hold on.
And the color is like more like a lemon honey.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like a hue here that's not just yellow, right? It's almost like there's a little bit of like a salmon, some sort of like
Yeah,
little
salmon
copper.
and gold.
Yeah, a little bit thrown in here.
Yeah.
Maybe that little bit of Pinot Noir extraction came in here. But for all intents and purposes, I would still say this is probably like lemon with a flecks of salmon or copper.
Yeah. Yeah, some color to it. And
Yeah.
And then there is a lot of bubbles, a steady stream of bubbles.
Yeah.
Steady, small bubbles that keep coming.
Yeah, very persistent, steady, pinprick kind of a bubbles. But if you look at the top of the wine, you see how some of it is kind of sticking around and kind of clinking around on top. It's not just like one stream of kind of bubbles that are coming up. And that's another sign of like a long kind of aging under a traditional method. The champagnes that have been aged or cava that's been aged for a long time and under pressure, oftentimes you won't see a lot of bubbles coming up like this. You will see maybe like one or a couple streams of maybe very steady things coming on because it's so well dissolved into the wine that it doesn't kind of blow up. It doesn't all come out at once. So the fact that it's like so much bubbles coming up all at once is another kind of a sign that maybe it hasn't spent as much time, which is true. It's a very entry level kind of young champagne. I also love 36 months in the cellar is a young in terms of champagne goes, but yeah. All right. Any other observations?
No, it's a good looking wine.
All right. Excellent. All right. You get to pick the next person for the notes.
I don't know. Maggie, you want to do it?
Okay.
Welcome back, Maggie.
Thanks.
Bring you back in.
Feel a little out of practice. So.
That's all right. That's why we do this.
Okay. Condition.
So from the notes from the top.
Clean, I guess.
Yeah, this one is clean. This one is sound. Intensity.
Okay. I forget the guidelines for this. Like
So
definitely smell it when I'm off.
Yeah, start moving the wine, like give it a little swirl and start moving the wine towards your nose and kind of stop where you start smelling the wine.
Yeah, it's definitely like before my nose gets to the glass. I just don't remember what.
Same. It's right before the nose gets to it. That's about medium. So when the nose kind of touches the rim, that's medium. Little up inches off, medium plus. Several inches off is pronounced. When you get the nose in the glass and you're kind of like, oh, what's in there? That's kind of medium minus. Light is when you're like really struggling to get anything out of the wine. So I would definitely call this about medium intense aromas of. What do you get?
Well, the first thing I noticed was actually more, what is it called? Like the yeasty, like kind of, I noticed like a bread-like smell, which is, I think, one of the other secondary.
Which is in the secondary and the autolytic.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're immediately starting off with the autolytic. Okay.
Yeah, like I noticed that first, before the like more fruity smells, but
there's definitely autolytics here. Like I said, this is the entry level, but you still get the autolytics. I totally get the autolytics here. So let's start there. What kind of autolytic do you get? Like, do you get, just name some of the, whatever you get. Is that like toasty, bready?
It seemed like bready, like yeast, like, you know,
yeah. Like bread dough too. Like if you ever made like dinner roll, like, you know, it's like very smelling the dinner roll after you make the yeast, if you let it proof, like smelling it. Yeah. For sure. All right, let's get up to the top, or let's finish at the second. Do you get anything else here? Do you get any MLF, oak, anything like that?
I don't think so. At first I thought it was butter, but then it was, I think it was more the yeast like bread dough type of smell.
I actually, again, you all know that I suck at sniffing out MLF on the nose, but I actually get a little bit this like a top cream, like a little bit of like a creamy, sweet, like a dairy kind of a thing going on here. I mean, this has gone through full mallow, so it makes sense. But yeah, definitely that kind of like bread dough with a little bit of cream top kind of a thing going on here. Any oak?
No, and
Yeah, no oak. This is all stainless steel in the bottle. There's absolutely no oak on this thing, so it doesn't make sense. All right, let's get back to the primary. Any name on some things going from the top? What have we done?
I think I smell it still. Peach, I noticed.
Okay. Let's start from the top. Do you get any floral?
No, well, I didn't notice that, but
Yeah, I don't get much floral here. Any green fruit?
green fruit. No, I noticed more like lemon and peach. That was about all.
Yeah, I personally get a little touch of green fruit, like a little bit of yellow apple, but really like not super ripe, just kind of like almost like underripe, kind of yellow apple, maybe a little pear, golden pear, Basque pear, I think those are called. I guess a little bit of green fruit, but yeah, totally the citrus. Like I get the lemon and zest, and peel, all of that. Stone fruit?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, the peach, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you got a little peach. All right. I don't get much stone fruit here. It's also not very common to get stone fruit in Champagne. That's not to say some really like ripe vintages could get some of this, but really oftentimes, in general, when we're talking about Champagne, we're not really talking about a lot of fruit. We're talking about mostly this. This is autolytic is what we're going for. And then often a lot of fruit that we're going to get is like a citrus and kind of like unripe green fruit. Again, really cool place. Like you're not going to you're not going to be able to ripen the fruit all that much. But time to time, when you have a unusually, exceptionally warm vintage, yeah, you could get some of these other things popping up as well. Any tropical, any red, any black, anything else? Any fruit besides citrus and your little peach?
No.
Okay. I will say though, this is again, it's probably because it hasn't spent as long of time on these than some of the other champagne that we've had in the past. There's definitely more fruit on this thing than other champagnes that we've tasted in the past. Like I definitely get some of that green fruit, citrus fruit. I mean, call it a power suggestion, but now that you mentioned peach, like maybe I can get like really like unripe, like really hard unripe, like white peach kind of a thing, maybe even. So I can kind of see that. Nature of the fruit. Is this ripe, fresh, underripe, overripe, jammy, cooked? What do you think?
So the lemon seems fresh, but the peach smell I had was kind of more like stewed peaches or something.
Okay.
Yeah, big stewed like that.
All right. Any herbaceous, any herbal, spice, anything like that? Yeah, me
No.
neither. I don't get any kind of like savory notes on this thing. Any minerality, any rockiness?
No, I don't smell that.
Yeah, this is not the most minerally champagne out there, but I definitely do get some stony out there a little bit. I get a little maybe like whetstone, a little bit of like a river stone kind of a thing. There's some sort of like a stony thing. It's not just the fruit, but again, there's some champagnes out there that literally smells like flinty, just kind of like a very rocky kind of thing. But this is not that. But I get a little bit of that. Cool. Do you get any tertiary?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is only comes from like bottle aging. Yes, this has spent 3 years in the cellar, but that's not long enough to really start developing these things. So for the most part, this wine should be all in the primary, secondary. The fact that you're starting out with the autolytic right off the bat, especially for this kind of an entry-level champagne, is a good sign. So yeah, cool. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the panel.
Okay, how about David? You want to do that?
Me, David, sure. Yeah. Okay. Um, I'll start with the sweetness. Really, really, really dry. Dry your mouth out dry.
And this is Brut. It's not even the driest champagne out there. But again, this is like that kind of like perception thing. Like the acid on this thing is so high that like even with 8 grams per liter of sugar, it just feels bone dry.
Yeah. Yeah. Which leads me to acidity.
Yeah.
At least medium plus, if not higher.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean it's crispy.
Yeah, it's got some acid here. I mean, my mouth is watering, but yeah, like a medium plus, bordering on high. Yeah, I almost call this high, but yeah, right up there. Tannin, obviously we're going to talk about tannin.
No tannin.
Alcohol.
Medium. I mean, it's yeah. It doesn't feel hot, but it's I think like a lot of champagnes, it maybe the bubbles
Yeah, carbonation.
and
Yeah,
more quickly than usual. It definitely has
yeah.
some.
So this is where I've actually noticed this. I think Allison was saying this last week as well. I think a lot of you are trying to gauge alcohol by kind of like your level of feeling, like a drunkenness that you're feeling, the inebriation that you're feeling. But that can be altered by a lot of things, right? Like it could be like how much water did you drink today? You know, did you eat anything? Like how tired are you? Like there's a lot of physiological things that are happening that could affect that. Is there bubbles, right? Like carbonation always makes you get drunk faster.
Yeah.
So the really what I want to ask, what I want to tell you guys to pay attention to is just really the warmth. Like this, to me, I feel it like right on the upper top of my chest and the, like my throat. So like really start paying attention to kind of like the warmness of it. Sometimes you just feel it in your mouth when it's just like out of balance hot. But to me, this is exactly what champagne alcohol should be like, which is right in the medium, around probably like, I don't know, I'll probably say it's like 12.5.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I would say medium 12.5 somewhere there.
Yeah, this is 12.5. So again, also a really cold place. Like you're rarely ever going to see champagne reach above, like you will probably never see, I've never seen 14% champagne. 13.5 is pushing it. So 12.5 is very, very kind of what you would expect from champagne. Body.
Body, I mean, it feels so light with the bubbles. I mean, but even if you swish around a little bit, it's still, to me, it's still pretty light, medium minus light, somewhere in there.
I'm gonna call this medium. I mean, it's got some weight. It's not nothing. It's not like super full or anything. But there's when you start getting into like the upper end of single digit dosage level, it's gonna add some viscosity. So this has got them 8 grams per liter. And so and especially this is also Pinot Noir, not Chardonnay. Or it's got some 70% Pinot Noir. So it's got some little bit of body. And again, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, like knowing what kind of dosage level it is, knowing what kind of variety that it was used on. This was Pinot Noir, 70% Pinot Noir. So kind of knowing that, you know that this is going to be a little more fuller, a little bit bigger. If you're to get like Cote de Blanc, like Blanc de Blanc, it's going to be much like kind of what you were talking about. Like lighter body, laser focus, like super high acid. But this being a Brut and a Pinot Noir a dominant blend, it's going to have a little more body. So I'm going to call this medium, but not huge. Like it's not even upper end of medium. This is like, you know.
I think the mousse I would say is delicate.
Yeah, which is definitely delicate. Yeah,
and that
very small,
that
prickly.
throws off my perception of the body because it sort of floats along your tongue kind of weirdly.
That's fair. Yeah, bubbles here are delightful. It's not the fact that this has only spent like 36 months in the cellar. yeah, it's getting this like really fine bubbles. It's really nice. But yeah, I'll definitely call this delicate as well. Flavor intensity.
I go medium plus. I mean, it really is a ton of flavor.
I know. I'm actually surprised. Yeah, I agree. To me, it's much stronger on the, or I was more surprised at how muted it was on the nose because on the palate, yeah, I'm getting plenty of flavor here. I thought I'd call this medium plus as well, the flavor intensity of the palate.
Yeah.
Do you confirm everything that Maggie called out? Is there anything else that you get or something you disagree with?
I would agree with everything. To me, I taste a lot of like yellow apple.
Me too. I got quite a bit of yellow apple.
They'll call that. Yeah, I mean it's got the lemon, it's got all that, but like it's kind of yellow apple and yeast, and then like touches of other things like like Maggie talked about.
Yeah. To me, what gave this wine like a pause? Because at the beginning, when I smelled it, when I first tasted it, I was like, oh, it's fine champagne. But I sat with it. I drank a glass over probably like a 45-minute period of time, just kind of how it developed and whatnot. And more time it went on, it actually developed, and it's already from the moment that I opened this wine, it's already kind of start to show a little bit more of that kind of easy oxidative edge. And for the wine to be this young to show that much autolytic and then oxidative edge, and don't get me wrong, this is entry-level young champagne. There's a lot more the yellow apple, the citrus, a lot of the fruit, the primary that shows through, but it is showing a very distinctive layer of that kind of autolytic thing, autolytic, and then even touch of oxidative edge. But really also not ton of it, but there's also that like chalky textural thing. Like I want you guys to take a sip and then just pay attention to like texturally what the wine feels like on your tongue. To me, there's that chalky, like this is what I'm talking about, like when I say champagne. Again, this is not the most chalky champagne out there, but there's definitely some textural component to this thing.
Yeah, I was going to mention chalk as a middle. You mentioned the kind of whetstones on the nose, but like on the palate, I think definitely kind of chalky.
Yeah.
And there is like a bitterness at the finish.
Agreed. There's a little bitterness.
I don't love it, but it is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that bitterness just maybe phenolics. I know this is a direct press, so they got it off the skins right away. Maybe they pressed it a little too hard. But yeah, I do agree. There's a little bit of bitterness here. I think that's a little bit of I don't even want to call it a mistake, maybe a mistake, but yeah, I do not care for, like myself, but like you, but that chalky minerality that persists through here is really nice. Okay, and then you get the secondary, you get the no tertiary, but the secondary, all that yeasty, autolytic.
Yeah, what we talked about, yeah, a ton of that kind of
cool.
brioche.
Again, not the most autolytic thing, not the most aged champagne we've had, but solid all the way through. Okay, finish. How long the fingers, flavors last?
It's got a medium plus. I mean, it goes on for a while and then it kind of lingers with a little bit of bitterness. I'd say medium plus.
Yeah, this is like right at the high end of medium, lower end of medium plus for me. Yeah, being generous, we'll call it medium plus as well. All right, bring it home for us. How good is this wine? And would you age it?
Okay, so quality level, what do we do? We do balance. I think it is well balanced. It's very acidic, but it has some fruit flavors in there, so it balances out well, and it's tart, but yeah, so balance. It's not terribly complex. Somewhere in the medium range.
Yep.
And then what do we do? Sort of so balance, complexity, finish. Intensity is medium plus, and then finish, right? Or is that the
Yep.
I can't remember. We're somewhere between
No,
good
you got it.
for all those, right? So as usual, we are generous and somewhere in the very good range.
Yeah, exactly. We're landing somewhere between medium and medium plus, right? Like balance, like you said, complexity wise, not terribly complex, but you know, it's got some secondary, it's got some minerality, it's got the autolytic thing from the secondary, some fruit, so medium, maybe high end of medium. And then the intensity, medium on the nose, medium plus on the palate, so somewhere between medium plus. So when we put it all at the length, we called it somewhere again, for me, medium, somewhere between medium plus, we called it medium plus. But yeah, when we take an average of all of that, we're definitely landing somewhere between medium plus. And being generous, we'll definitely go call it very good. But if you land it on good, I think it's perfectly reasonable. Would you age this?
I mean, it has that acidity backbone. It's already been aged for, as you said, at least 3 years, roughly, right?
Yeah.
I guess I would say it will probably be fine if you age it for another 5 to 10 years, but I'm not sure it'll get any better. Maybe.
Agreed. I don't think this is meant to be a, champagne ages well because of the acid backbone. The intensity here, we call it medium plus, but medium on the nose. It's not super, super intense. It has some complexity. Its complexity is one of the things we call medium. So perhaps by aging it, we'll add a little tertiary. Maybe some of that will add to the more complexity, punching it squarely more into the medium plus territory. But all in all, this is meant to be just kind of a young, easy aperitif, kind of a entry-level champagne. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere anytime soon. I think you can drink this easily for the next 5 years without it falling apart. I don't think it's gonna fall apart, but
Right.
it's definitely not something that I would buy to age for long term. So, I mean, champagnes can age for decades, but I would say for the next 5 to 8 years, just drink it with no problem. It's probably not going to fall apart anytime soon. It may even get a little bit better with a little bit of age. Cool, excellent, good job, everyone. Any questions? Any disagreements?
Well, I have a question. You said this is, an entry level. Would this be one of the champagnes that they might not put older vintages into?
No, it's in there because by law you have to.
And if we compare this to one of their $300 bottles of the family wine, we'd really see a difference?
So yeah, huge difference. So the two things would be hugely different. Well, maybe three things. So one, where the fruit comes from, where and which vines it come from. So most likely their higher end bottles will have older vines, right? And that would from probably more Grand Cru and Premier Cru side. There are some Premier Cru fruits in here, but no Grand Cru, but Premier Cru. I know that. So it's that, so site selection in the vine age. And then two, the percentage of reserve wine. So the more premium wines tend to have a bigger percentage of the reserve wine. So the wines that they have pulled back over the years, there's a bigger portion of that. This is much primary, I would say probably like 80%, maybe higher of the base vintage, and then added some reserve to fill up the rest, just to kind of build out some complexity. And then finally, the third one is aging. The higher one and one, they'll probably age it for, even if it's non-vintage, they'll probably age it for like 5 years at least, if not longer. And this one is 3 months. I mean 3 years. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a huge difference. I don't know if you can remember the bottle that we had from the half bottle we had from last year's sparkling box, but like that champagne to this champagne is like day and night, depending on like that half bottle was almost both in terms of intensity. I mean, we call that outstanding, but like it was intensity wide, the complexity wide. Yeah, it was just it's a different ballgame. Any other questions?
I have one. What's like the timeline and decision process like to declaring a vintage generally? Are they like just kind of go for it every single year, but they wait the full 36 months and taste it and say, oh, that didn't work? Or are they tasting it and watching the weather throughout the year and say, oh yeah, this is going to be worth it to
eat
on the leaves for an extra long time? Or
Yeah, so it's not. There's what they call classic vintages in champagne. So the vintages are not like determined by some committee of people. They say this is a great year in champagne. This is a vintage year. So every champagne that is made in this vintage, like let's say 2019, 2019, everybody put on 2019. It's not like that. So every producers can call vintage whenever they want. If you want to put vintage on every year, you can. But some of the kind of the classic, oftentimes these are big houses. When they all call one vintage, they all put a vintage on that year. They usually call it the classic vintage, where like most of them had called it the vintage year. So, and then they call it usually at different points along the way. But oftentimes, by the time they're harvesting, they already know. Like they already know what kind of harvest that they had.
They're not waiting for it to sit around for 3 years before they're
exactly.
like, like, okay.
Yeah. By the time they've already gone through the first fermentation, they've called the vintage. Usually the wine reporters will start putting up, this was a classic vintage year. The Krug is already called, putting up vintage label and all of that. So they already know.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, because it's really the farming there. Like the big challenge there or big threat there is hail and late spring frost.
Yeah, so they're not like, oh, everything seemed to be okay, but 3 years later it tastes like shit. I guess that doesn't.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, at that point they fucked up somewhere along the way. Any other questions? Oh, I'm saying, Dave, you say you got some VA? Matchsticky kind of thing? Oh.
Yeah, when I just on the nose.
Okay.
And when I first poured it and like took a big old whiff, I was like, whoa, that's a matchstick. But
Wait.
it blew off very quickly.
So are you saying V8 and matchstick, or are you so
more matchstick, which I interpreted as VA, but maybe
reduction,
whatever that is.
So reduction is a lack of oxygen. I mean, this is all stainless steel into the bottle. So it hasn't seen any like wood barrels, so it probably hasn't seen any oxidative exchange. So yeah, it is possible. I didn't get much reduction on my one, but yeah. So yeah, it might be. VA is a volatile acidity. So when the acetic acid gets out of control or it gets elevated level, so you get a little bit like vinegary smell when it gets really high.
This is more reductive. Yeah.
The reduction. Okay. Any other questions? What do you guys think about the dosage level on this wine? This is about 8 grams per liter. Is it good? Is it too high for you? Too low for you? Would you like lower dosage? Would you like higher dosage? A lot of people think dosage is about sweetness level, but it's really about the balance. It's to balance out the acid. Like to me, this dosage seems like perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was like, on the drier side.
Yeah.
I think it was a really, really good balance. If calling residual sugar on champagne is kind of hard for me. But,
yeah.
I thought it was, not very detectable, because it balanced everything else out so well.
Exactly. Like I also like zero dosage champagnes, but I mean, no surprise to anybody. But it is sometimes it is a little rough. It's like I wish there's like maybe we should put some dosage on it. Even for somebody who is a self, described acid head, zero dosage can be rough. Any other questions? Cool. Did you guys like this one? Just out of curiosity. Did anybody not like this one? Dave, tell me more.
No, I think I would probably want slightly more dosage, not much more.
A little more dosage, okay.
But yeah, I tend to like I have a sweeter palate, I think, generally.
I mean, again, with the champagne, it's not even sweetness. It's like that opulence. It's like much bigger and fuller. Yeah. Classic stuff.
And the bitterness on the aftertaste, I wasn't.
That did bother me. That did catch me for a little bit. I was like, there's a little bit of phenolic bitterness that I didn't notice the first time I tasted this wine, but today when I opened it, I was like, oh, there's some bitterness here.
It has actually, it tastes better now that it's warmed up a little bit, interestingly.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it's better to taste wine a little bit warmer. Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, this is not, is it the most, mind-blowing best champagne that we've had? No, absolutely not. But, I haven't seen this is a grower champagne, organic grower champagne. And this was under 30, well, now that I'm giving you guys a hint, but this is under $30 wholesale. I haven't seen that in years. In fact, I don't think we'll ever see that again. Like that trend is going away. Champagne price has been steadily going up very fast over the last 5 years, particularly, that I haven't seen any champagne really, but particularly grower champagne, organic grower champagne for under $30. Like it just, I didn't think I was ever going to see one again. So when I saw this one, tasted it, and saw all these different levels of all the things that we check off on champagne boxes, right? Is it autolytic? It's got the yeasty, bready thing. Yes, Does it have kind of like the richness? Does it have the high acid? Yes, Does it have that like chalky minerality textural thing? Yes, like it checks off all those boxes. So in my opinion, I think this is the most amount of quote unquote champagne at this price that we'll probably ever see again. Because I don't see champagne price coming down anytime soon. Let me tell you. So, having said that, let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much do you think would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? I gave you a hint, but remember, this is still champagne. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe a better question is, how much would you be willing to pay for a bottle of champagne these days? 30, 30, 25, 20, 25, 40, 30. Okay. See, this just goes to show. 29, 30. All right, so this wine on a retail shelf. See, I don't think you guys are understanding what I'm saying when I say champagne price has been skyrocketing for the last 5 years. This on a retail shelf will be $42.50. Like this is what I'm talking about when it comes to champagne. Like who's drinking again? And even at $42.50, this is the best champagne you're gonna get at $42.50. So like if you want to drink some real champagne, like we're talking about 60, 70, easy.
Is this including tariffs?
This actually went up from the moment I tasted it till I bought it. It was 2 months. And then the tariff price went up. So that is with tariffs. $42.50 is with tariffs. It was 40 before tariffs and then went up. Well, so I don't know, like you guys all know how much I love champagne, but like at what point can you justify drinking champagne, on a daily basis anymore? Like I don't know, maybe you all can afford $50 bottles of wine every day, but like I can't afford $50 bottles of wine every day. Like that's wild to me. So, anyways,
So
there you go.
this has in real tiny print that it's the house of Bauchet. Bauchet.
Bauchet, yeah.
Bauchet. Is that a good guide to find entry-level wines to look for the actual owner's house that it might come from?
What do you mean?
Well, this wine, the family wine, their premier wines are Bauchet under Bauchet label. Not if we were looking at the back of the label and found a better known house, would that make a good indication?
Yeah, so that's usually an indication that, especially if the back of the house label is like a reputable name. So the reason that they do that is because one, they have all this fruit that they grew, right? like they're perfectly good fruit, but it's just too young. Like they don't want to dilute the quality of their main brand. Like they built their family brand on this like really high quality wine. So like they don't want to put out another wine that is younger and entry level like this. So they usually create different brand within like a brand within a brand, just kind of make it so it doesn't taint the name of Bauchet, the name that they have built. They could have another way they could have done is they could have just sold all the grapes to different producers or different winemakers, different champagne houses, but they also get pennies on the dollar probably for doing that as opposed to making it and selling it themselves, and just being able to keep the fruit within the house and then just trying to do what they can. But yes, oftentimes if you see a much reputable name in the back as the kind of the maker, that's usually a good sign the wines are going to be pretty good. I mean, this happens around the world. It's not just Champagne. Like a lot of places do this. They have second label just to deal with a younger, while the vineyards is aging until they get old enough and good enough to make it into their main bottling. They usually put it into second label. So, yeah, that's a good way to find some value for sure. But yeah, here we go, folks. Champagne for you. Entry level champagne at $42.50. That's the kind of world that we live in these days. It's wild times. It's wild times. Any other questions?
Yeah, Woong, if you were sitting in a cafe in Champagne, is it like ridiculously cheaper, or is it also expensive in like if you're sitting there in the country in that region?
Oh no, I mean it's way cheaper than here. This probably and this would be like the perfect like the house champagne, like a restaurant or like a wine bar in Paris would pour, and it would probably be, I don't know, 20 euros, 22 euros maybe. Like,
So we
so
need to go to France and just like stick it in our pockets and fly home.
Yeah, literally. I mean, yeah, you go to France and you come back here, particularly things like champagne, it's just like the price just seems like wine in US is just so expensive compared to where it comes from. It's insane. But particularly with things like champagne, like sparkling and fortified wines get much higher tax rate than still wines for some reason. I don't really know. Maybe it's because it weighs more, maybe. So you pay even more tax than you would pay on a regular dry still wine. So that's yet another reason why it gets more expensive. And champagne, of course, arguably, or definitely the most well-branded wine in history.
Okay.
So you're paying for some of that brand name as well. But I just love this stuff. I just love this stuff. I just wish it was less expensive.
I do remember in rolling up in France to these like roadside wine stands where there's nobody there and they just have a huge like 500-gallon tank, and you just refill your 750 milliliter, and it's like €3, and it's not good wine, but it's for €3 a bottle.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I once my first experience with that was a buddy of mine from undergrad was studying abroad in Barcelona, and I went to go visit him one time, and he just literally took empty 2-liter like a Coke bottle, and then went to the market, like the Mercado, right under his apartment, like literally 5-minute walk, and then there's a wine vendor in there, and you just walk in the store, you pay him €2 and fill up the whole thing. And I was like, what? And it was a better wine than I've ever had. I mean, at that point, like I didn't know anything about wine. I was like 20 at the time, I was drinking Yellowtail and tube of Chuck. And then I was like, for €2, you get a 2-liter bottle of wine, and it's a better wine than I've ever had. Like, this is incredible. Yeah. Wild. It's wild. Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to what you guys think at the end of this month, because so yeah, so this is the most expensive bottle in the box, and then but there are also bottles in the box that are like ridiculously affordable, but also punches way above its price level. Like at what point does it make sense to be drinking this?
Is Cava gone up in price too?
Yeah, I mean everything has gone up in price, but Cava less so than champagne. Champagne has just honestly been like insane. The price of champagne, it just is skyrocketed.
It's like bourbon.
It's like bourbon. It's like Burgundy. It's like Bordeaux. It's just skyrocketed. It's wild. Not that it was ever that cheap, right? Like champagne has never been that cheap, but yeah, these days it's like out of reach for just people. Like only very well-to-do folks, I feel like can really pick up. I mean, entry level champagne is $42.50. Like what? Like that's insane. Yeah. Anyways.
But it has been aged for 3 years. I mean, that's like someone has to keep this bottle in their cellar for 3 years.
Totally.
It's kind of the minimum, right?
Yeah.
It makes a certain amount of sense.
No, I get why it's expensive, but it's become out of reach. Like it's gotten too expensive now. Even, yeah. Anyways.
So that's why Prosecco is so hot now.
Yeah, Prosecco, Cava, all of that has grown. It's definitely taking up more market share. But interesting enough, so I also saw this stat. It's taking more market share in terms of volume, but in terms of dollars, champagne is taking.
Well, yeah, if they can get $300 a bottle for this, for champagne, makes a case pretty expensive.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's what it is. It's champagne folks are just kind of like making up the margin with the price rather than trying to sell more of it. And it's not just the amount or the amount of time it takes to make it, but also honestly, it's been last like 10 years, but particularly last 5 years or so. I feel like every year in last 5 years has been a very, very tough vintage for champagne. Just hail, frost. I mean, people getting their entire year's harvest lost overnight. A lot of these big houses are faring better just because they have bigger cushion and buffer. But a lot of these grower champagne people, they will lose their entire vintage overnight. So there's that too. So there's less champagne being made just because the climate has gotten so terrible. It's becoming a really, really hard place to grow grapes. And also, that's also another part of the reason why there's a lot of kind of attention of the industry paying attention to England for champagne style sparkling, because that kind of this chalky mineral limestone kind of runs through Champagne and goes all the way through the southern tip of England. So, and weather-wise, it's very cold, which is what you want for sparkling wine. So there's a lot of development that's happening there. A lot of people predicting that that's going to be the next kind of big champagne region of the world and all of that. And the wines from there have gotten better. I've tasted it a few vintages now. I've gotten very, very good over the years. It's quite good actually. It's not quite champagne.
Explain that for a second, because the threats you've described have been spring frost and hail and things like that.
Yeah. So from what I've
like cold region as it gets warmer is easier to grow grapes, but kind of want it cold. So explain how that plays out, like as climate change.
So it's not just the simple just cold. It's colder. It's or everything is getting global warming. Everything is warmer. It's not that. It's just there's no prediction of the weather pattern, right? Like it's almost, yes, it's gotten warmer, so there's more riper there's more riper fruit that's coming out. It's kind of like, if you remember back to our conversation with the Left Foot Charlie, the Michigan producer, and when I was asking him that question about climate change, he was talking about, it's almost, yeah, like there's no doubt all across the board every year it's gotten warmer. The harvest is sooner than it was 5 years ago, a decade ago. You know, it's getting warmer. What is becoming more challenging every year are these unexpected weather events, because more of these extreme events are happening. And I think that's the same thing in Champagne. It's not necessarily that it's gotten warmer, which should make it better for winemaking, but they're having these freak hailstorms in the middle of nowhere that when they shouldn't have it. They're having these frost events that happen when they shouldn't have it, and that's what's fucking everything up. And from what I hear, what particularly makes the southern tip of England a little more attractive or reasonable for a place to grow grapes is that, yes, it still has, you know, globally all these things are happening, but it's because right by the ocean, because the Champagne is more inland, right? But it's because it's right by the big body of water. There's a little more moderating influence there. Is what I've been told. I don't know how much that is true, but yeah. Yeah, it's like the spring frost that's been happening. And by the way, this is not just Champagne, Burgundy, Loire. They've been going through this like last 10 years. Just freak frost, freak hail. Yeah, was it like 2 years ago? No, 2021. 2021, I remember during the pandemic. You guys remember that picture of all the Burgundy producers burning shit in the oil drums in the middle of vineyards just to keep things warm? Because it's like this freak spring frost came and it just was danger of freezing everything off. So they were just trying to keep the vines warm. So you would see these pictures of entire like a Burgundy hills with all these barrels burning. It would just like look like there's like a bonfire just across the entire hillside. So things like that. You know? So. Anyways, any other questions?
Well, keep us posted at least by email on your trip.
We'll do. I don't even know how much email access that I will have. Honestly, it seems like, especially when you get out to these kind of outer rural parts of Philippines, the brownout is a pretty common. So I'm not sure how much I'll have, but yeah, for sure. Whenever I have a chance, I'll drop a little bit.
An organized tour, or are you just doing this on your own?
So my own. I never go on tours. The boat ride is going to be an organized tour. That's like something that's like a 4 days, 4 nights. We're going from El Nido to Coron in Palawan. We're stopping and like spending the night in these uninhabited islands. They have these like huts that they have built. It's like bamboo huts with like a mosquito nets and mattress, and like they've built it for people to stay there. So we're staying there. So it's literally like they say it like right on their website. It's like this is not for everyone. Like there's gonna be some brownouts. There are gonna be parts where you have no electricity. It's gonna be very spotty Wi-Fi. Like let your loved ones know that you're gonna be out of contact for like 4 days. But I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to it. Just kind of completely disconnecting.
It does sound pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a tropical paradise. It's like white sand beach, turquoise blue water, palm trees, swimming with the whale sharks and like sea turtles and shit. Like it's gonna be awesome.
When I was a kid, my parents took us on a trip and down to Honduras, and like we flew into whatever main city, and then we got in this tiny little plane. They dropped us off in the middle of mangrove swamp, and like this little like 6-person plane dropped us off, and we all got out of the plane, and there was nobody there. We're like in the middle of a mangrove swamp with like nobody there.
Yeah.
What do we do? And it only like half an hour later, someone finally rolled up in a boat and took us to this resort that was kind of built into a hillside with all these little huts connected by these you know, no connection to anything. You know, there's no
Yeah.
phone, there's no internet.
Right.
And we had a pig roast and we
Yeah.
diving, went to waterfalls. It was amazing. And it's awesome. But like, man, how do you find those things where you're not like at risk of life and limb, you know?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. The danger is if nothing goes wrong, that's great. Something goes wrong, then it's real bad. Let's put it that way.
I mean, this particular place worked out really well. I think 3 years later, they were completely wiped out by hurricane.
Oh shit.
Unfortunate. Yeah. I would go back there. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
There was a guy on our trip there who I remember him to this day because he was like in a construction elevator and the rope broke. And so like his elevator was falling like 10 stories. And he had this idea that he would jump at the last second. And he did. And he like broke his legs and he had like these casts on and all these like sort of physical therapy things going on. But the doctor's like, you saved your life by jumping at the last second, because otherwise, if you had just like stood in the ground, you would have died.
Yeah.
He was just like the life of the party. And we'd go diving and he had this like wine skin full of beer that he would take diving with him and drink it while he was diving. It's crazy, dude.
Wow.
But it was just this weird little like crazy people in the jungle hanging out.
Yeah.
Pigs and
Was it Roatan Island?
I don't know. My parents found it. It was 20 years ago. So 30 years ago.
Amazing.
If it was Roatan,
I love it. I mean, I love that kind
that's
of
the
like
dive center, and now all the cruise ships go there.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's
You can't go back again.
Yeah.
But I have another story. I'll tell another story very quickly. Some friends of ours went to a place in Vietnam, and they went to this like out of the way place, and they like this island where they lived with the natives for a while, and they came back to this hotel, and they got back to the hotel, and the guy at the hotel says, "Oh, you guys look so exhausted. I'm going to upgrade you to the suite, but don't tell the manager. I'm going to do this kind of on my own initiative, and I don't want him to know." So they go upstairs and they settle into the suite, and they're hanging out. They're like, "Oh my God, there's a TV." Because they're in the middle of Vietnam. There's no TVs, right? They're so excited. And at some point they're like, "Hey, we need to go down and settle up the bill, because if we do it tomorrow morning, it'll be the manager, not this guy." And so they go downstairs to settle up, and then they go upstairs and they go into the room, and someone has taken all their stuff, and it's like they're totally confused. Like everyone's like, oh, everything's disarranged, and they're walking, what's going on? And the guy in this couple goes to the bathroom, opens the door, and there's somebody he doesn't know sitting on the toilet. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And the guy's like, "This is my room. What are you doing in here?" And they finally realized that all the keys worked on all the rooms. They walked into totally the wrong room.
Love. Awesome. Dig it.
Yeah. And so they ran into this Australian dude in this weird Vietnamese hotel. And now they're like, they just want to meet the guy who's like, "I was just sitting there on the toilet."
Yeah.
And a person came in and was screaming at me.
Like, what does a man have to do? Take a shit in peace.
That's the perils of staying at out of the way places. The keys might not be unique to the room.
Love it. Yeah, I'm sure I have a fair share of travel misadventures.
I'm sure you can see bugs the size of frisbees too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, from everything I've read, everything I've heard, it's like just wear mosquito spray, wear bug repellent at all times. But I mean, we're going to tropical jungle paradise, so yeah, it's gonna be incredible. Yeah, I had no idea how much of I guess it's like one of the most diverse in terms of marine biology in the world is the Philippines. So yeah, pretty fascinated by their like history. Like so many shipwrecks and ship dives, and even like snorkel down to like a, old World War II era Japanese ships that have been sunk by U.S. Army. Like U.S. has had a huge, presence there during World War II. Friend of mine is married to a Filipino wife, and he was just recently there, and he's like, yeah, it's insane. Like you go there, you get on a boat, and they'll just be like, what do you want to see today? You want to see a Japanese ship? You want to see a US ship? You want to see a Chinese ship? Like, what are we talking about? And they'll just take you to a site, and then you get off the boat, and then there's a shipwreck like under the water. And what do you want to swim with today? You want to swim with a, school of sardines? You want to swim with the whale sharks? You want to swim with turtles? Like manta rays? Or like, what do you want? And then they'll like take you to a place where you like swim with these like school of different creatures. And yeah, it sounds amazing. It sounds crazy. So, but yeah, looking forward to kind of disconnecting, being on the beach, and not doing a whole lot, honestly, to tell the truth. I'm looking forward to just kind of relaxing and chilling. Apparently, they make coconut wine. I'm sure it's going to be terrible, but looking forward to tasting that. Never had coconut wine before. Yeah. No idea. Never really. I've had a lot of Filipino friends in high school, but like I really don't know much about Philippines at all. So looking forward to learning, eating, drinking, seeing weapons.
How long is it, Un? Like 2 weeks?
Yeah, I went there for 2 weeks, almost exactly 2 weeks to the day. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, be fun. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm gonna stop by it's Korean Air that I'm taking, and then we're stopping in Incheon in Korea. So I'm actually on the way back. I intentionally got a long layover, so I'm meeting up with parents. They're gonna come out. We're gonna have dinner and hang out for a night, and then fly out the next morning. So
Oh, nice.
good to see my folks as well. So that'd be good.
Take a carton of cigarettes. You have good gifts.
Wait, sorry, what'd you say?
Cigarettes. You hand out a pack of cigarettes, you'll be Uncle Woong forever.
Yeah, maybe I should bring some cigarettes as well. Also, I just realized I've been recording this whole time. So turn this on.